So I want to share with you a little bit. And it should have been reversed because before Jesus, when I was talking about the mount, on the Mount of Temptation, that is the place where Jesus, and it's truly a mount, we had to have a lift to go up there. So it should have been his baptism first and then the temptation. But it was such a powerful journey. We started off in Mount Nebo, and we started off in Jordan. Now, before we got to Mount Nebo, we went to the Dead Sea, and they wanted to spoil us, so we had a beautiful, luxurious hotel, which was the last time we were going to be in one of those. But it was at the Dead Sea, and I thought, why would we start at the Dead Sea? But this was about holy land and living waters. The Dead Sea is dying. The Dead Sea is shrinking amongst other waters. The River Jordan is polluted. In the time when Jesus existed, you could fish, you could eat from the River Jordan. It's all polluted and brown. The Sea of Galilee is polluted. Water is precious in that region, and it is also precious in the earth itself. And so we went to bless the waters. We had many healing ceremonies. But we started off in Mount Nebo, where that is the site where Moses has led the people through the promise, from Egypt and supposedly into the promised land. And as you know, Moses never got to the promised land. But he gets to Mount Nebo, and from Mount Nebo, you could look over and you can see as far as Jerusalem and Bethlehem. You could see Palestine, you could see. And so we started our journey together from that place. And while we were there, one of the organizers, and I didn't know that he was going to do this, but he asked me, he says, I want you to read a passage, because we're standing there looking over into the promised land. And he hands me this thing to read. He says, well, Reverend Sylvia, I know you'll be able to read it. I said, oh, okay. And this is what he has me read as I'm looking. It says, well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. But like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. And I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Now, when he asked me to read that, as I'm standing looking over at the promised land, the tears begin to roll. Because it was so powerful that there's 100 delegates and we're all moved to tears because it's talking about all of us trying to get to that promised land, right? The land of milk and honey, the land where we're able to live a good life, a life that enables us to remember who God is and all of the blessings that are ours, and we can see it. And there was one young boy, he was on the camera team. This whole journey was filmed professionally. And he was so sweet because he could see people were crying. And so he came up to me and he says, well, why was everybody crying? So I explained to him, because he doesn't know who Martin Luther King Jr. is. So I explained to him the meaning of us being in this site, looking over Jericho, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and seeing it and knowing. And I said, and he gave this speech, and the next day he was assassinated. And what it said to all of us is that we've got some difficult times ahead, but we had come from four corners of the earth to connect and to gather together for a high purpose, to bring light into this experience called life that we're living right now. And so he understood, and he said, fine, he got that point. And then from Mount Nebo, we began to move as a caravan, 100 people. People from high places, people who were indigenous people, and people in between, but all with a mission to bring the light. And I felt so honored to be there to bring the light of truth, to speak this word of truth, and to be able to bless the land. So we go and we travel, and at some point we end up on the mount. It's called Mount Tabor. Powerful, powerful place. First of all, you have to understand, I understand now why the Israelites moaned and complained to Moses, okay? Because that's no joke. When you go there, you better be in shape. I'm telling you, because the terrain is nothing but hills and rocks and mountains, and it's not an easy path to walk, and it's not an easy place to live. And I can see when we were just coming, and we had buses, but we had to walk a lot. And before we even got there, we went to, before the journey started, I took a couple of days, and we went to Petra, which is this, you see it in the movies, it's a big, beautiful place. But I actually, when I finally got back to the car, I said, Lord, don't let me die here in this place. Because my heart was just beaten and it was rough. It's a rough journey. I've never walked so much. And these people walked from Egypt over mountains and hills. And when Jesus talks about a city that's set on a hill, every city is on a hill because there's nothing but hills and rocks and valleys and mountains. And so we move over from the promised land, and we begin to make our way from Jordan to cross over the Jordan River. And then we stop, and we have our experience at the site where Jesus was baptized. And it was a very powerful sight, but it was disheartening as well. Because on one side, so this is how the Jordan is. This side, we'll let this side be the Jordan, right? This is the Jordan side. This in the pier is the Jordan River. That over there is Israel. Literally, you can see, right? But the people are arguing about which side Jesus was really baptized in. They want to claim he was baptized on the Jordan side, and the Israelites or the people over here want to claim that he was baptized over here on the Israeli side. As if it really matters, because there's a river in between. Nobody knows where the river parts to see whose side is who. But it's important in their consciousness, right? It's important, yet you have a river that's separating people who are living really basically in the same environment. They want to know, well, who owns the Jordan River? The Israeli side or the Jordan side? As if you can split the water down in two and say this is your water and this is your water. Meanwhile, no one is taking care of it, and it's polluted. Meanwhile, there are people who are in Palestine who have been moved out that don't have access to fresh water. So water is now used as a weapon. And not just here, but if we think about it, friends, we need to know that water is very precious, but it will be an even more precious commodity in the days ahead. I looked at a film yesterday about some Aborigines who were experiencing the same thing, where companies have come and taken over the water and have polluted the water. And these people have lived on the land for thousands of years. And the young people and the old people are dying because the water is polluted. because there's greed. It's profit over people. And then I thought about, Standing Rock. The same thing. We have profit over people, where water is being polluted because we want to build oil lines, right? That we don't need to have. There are other ways to get energy that can save the planet and the people. But it's profit over people. And so there are people in Palestine who have to pay $100 a week just to get clean water. And some of them only make $600 a month. So you do the math. There are Syrian refugees who are living all along both sides of the border, and they don't have any kind of water running. And so we began our journey looking at the promised land, but yet seeing what we have done to the earth and to one another. And so we move from Jordan into trying to cross into Palestine. And so it gives me an indication of all these borders. And everyone's trying to protect their border. And so we wait on the bus, and we decided we'd get off and we start singing because Father Josh from the Vatican had a Vatican passport, and the guards had never seen a Vatican passport. So he gets pulled off and has to go someplace and whatever, and after a while, but we knew that it was going to be all right because they can come on a heartbeat on the bus and take you or you or you or you. And I thought about these whole things, and the same thing happened when we moved from, the border of Palestine into Israel. Everybody's protecting their borders, and I thought, what would it be like if there were no borders? I wonder how people would live if there wasn't a border that says, I belong here and you belong there, as opposed to we are all inhabiting the land of this earth. Let us share our resources. Let us move amongst one another. Let us keep our cultures, but let us not be afraid because you are on that side and I am on this side. You are the other. And I must never speak of peace. And so we began thinking, wow, how is peace going to come to the earth when the people are so divided and they are rooted and grounded in separation, in hatred, in otherness, so that even if you want to come and bring peace, you are seen as a traitor. You are seen as a soul who's betraying. If someone says, well, let's come together and let's talk, let an Arab talk with a Jew. Let a Palestinian come. Let a Jew go into Palestine and talk and live. You are seen as someone who is betraying. So peace is not a topic that's easily rendered. In fact, we were bringing 2 peace poles that were given to one to the Ethiopian church and to another community. I think it was a Muslim community that had a peace pole. And guess what? The peace pole had so many bullet holes in it that it had to be replaced. So that people who even thought about the idea of peace decided they had to shoot it up because it meant that somehow if we have peace, I won't matter. If we have peace, I won't exist. So let me tear this pole down. And so we're thinking, how is this ever going to come? We were at a community, and this rabbi was telling us that the Palestinians have because it's a rough, hot country, although it gets cold because it was freezing and it was cold. But when it's, you know how the climate changes also, it's drying up the rivers, it's doing all kinds of things. And he would say that, so there's a brush fire on the Palestinian side that's right back here. It goes across both sides. But this is the Palestinian side, and this is the Israeli side. And the fire department on the Palestinian side will not communicate with the Israeli side, and the Israeli fire department will not communicate with the Palestinian fire department. And he says, and guess what? The fire wins. You understand? They'd be willing to let the land burn on both sides rather than talk to one another. And so I began to say, wow. We moved from there into the city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem. My metaphysicians tell me, what does the name Jerusalem mean? City of peace. It was so powerful. City of peace, and yet there is no peace. City of peace, where you can witness such deep devotion, but yet there is no peace. Jerusalem. And so as I began to, because whenever I go on this a spiritual journey or whatever, I'm always looking for what is the message for me? What is it that God is going to bring me that I can hold on to and work with and be inspired by? And so I began to think about this whole concept of peace. The Holy Land, which had unholy alliances. The Holy Land that had unholy actions and behaviors. And you go into Jerusalem, and they call it the Old City, because all of Israel is not like that. When you go to Haifa, when you go to Tel Aviv, it's a modern city with skyscrapers, and it looks wonderful. But Jerusalem has kept its old city flavor, and they call it the Old City. And I began to think, this old city is also representative of old consciousness. A consciousness does not want to give way to peace. A consciousness that is stuck and rooted in its old perceptions of what is true. What is the purpose for being? And so when we went to Jerusalem, you're standing there and there are 4 quadrants. Think about this. This is the place, this holy land, where 3 of the major religions of the world have had their birth, right? Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And they all have sacred sites and places. And in the old city, when you go into the shops, there's a quadrant for the Jews and a quadrant over here for the Muslims and Islamic people. And then there's a quadrant over here for the Christians. And then there's a small quadrant for the Ethiopians. We don't hear much about it, but the Ethiopians have a place in Jerusalem as well. We went to, with Haile Selassie's Prince Emmaus, we went to the Ethiopian church. But they're all quadrant off in this one city that belongs to them all. Right? Very powerful. And so in this Jerusalem site, there's a place that people have seen, and it's called the Wailing Wall or the Western Wall, where the Jews go and put their prayers. And I had a picture of me at the Western Wall. But as I was there, and I began to touch the wall, and I put my prayer, I prayed for all of us here, for my family and my friends and this church, for life, for the earth. And I put my prayer in a crack, and I began to pray there. And I decided to, because it's crowded, so they have seats, so I wanted to let other people get to the wall. And we moved back, and I sat down, and I began to meditate and to pray and just to soak up the vibration. And the energy was so strong, it's called a Shekinah. The energy that is around that Western Wall, the Jews call it Shekinah, which is actually, it's a divine feminine energy, a divine feminine power. And I sat there and I began to meditate. And I heard the words, hold your peace. Hold your peace. And it was so powerful, I just accepted it, but I wasn't really sure exactly what that would mean for me. But I knew that as the journey proceeded, it would unfold. But hold your peace. Now, prior to that on the bus, there was a woman who does spiritual, mystical work with the Jewish letters of the alphabet. And she wanted to gift everybody with a little card with one of the letters. And it was in the bag, and so when it got to me, I picked my card. And it was the 23rd letter of the alphabet that represented peace. And I said, oh, I thought it was wonderful. But then it had a design, and the woman said that you've got this particular card, and this particular alphabet and letter carries a double blessing with it. And I said, oh, good. Thank you, God. So peace began to move into my consciousness of what it means. As I'm in a city where there is no peace. And mind you, before I left for the trip, there was an incident that happened, and I was feeling so out of peace, and my spirit was disturbed. And I said, I don't want to go to Jerusalem with my spirit being disturbed. I want to be at peace. Now, I didn't realize that when you have a prayer like that or a desire, it's actually putting forth a prayer, right, for God to answer. But my spirit was vexed. And I said, I want to go be able to enjoy, but yet I couldn't resolve this issue. And so when I pulled my card and it said peace, I said, thank you. And when I went to the Wailing Wall and I sat down and Spirit said, hold your peace, I said, oh, thank you. We continue on the journey, and I'm not sure what city we were in, but my roommate had, and I had said nothing to her, but she had gone into one of the little gift shops in some place where we were, and she had a little magnet. And she said, I just want to give this to you. And it's a magnet that says, what do you think the magnet says? Peace. Peace, 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 with some jewels. And I said, thank you, because this is a confirmation for me that I'm to be at peace. And I'm to what? Hold my peace. So further on, and we get here, and I have my little card that says the letter peace. And so now I've got these two things, and meanwhile, we have gone to many different cities. We've been to Bethlehem. We've been to the Church of the Nativity, touched the place where supposedly Jesus was born. And we were all saying, well, you know what? Even if it's not the place, there are so many people who make pilgrimages. There's so much energy, so much devotion, so much desire that it doesn't matter whether this is a specific place or not. You could feel the energy of the people. The same thing with people at the Wailing Wall, young women, because we were separated, who were showing such devotion, just praying and praying that the energy, the Shekinah was moving, that you could not help but feel it. And I'm talking about young girls. And we went in the evening, so we'd have a little bit more space. But they're there praying and worshiping. And I'm thinking, there's so much devotion, but no peace. So much desire for God, but no action for acceptance and the things of God and the principles of God. And so we're traveling. We went to Bethlehem. We went to so many different sites. We went to mosques, Church of the Dome of the Rock. And we're nearing the end, and they say, we're going to this place called Megiddo. And Megiddo means Armageddon. So my little mind says, now why in the world would we want to end this fabulous, powerful, mystical trip at Armageddon, at a place where the Battle of Armageddon is supposed to take place? Now, you know, when you ask a question, the Spirit oftentimes reveals it to you. And this was a place, and we did ceremonies and at many different sites, but this was going to be our last ceremony. And there was a Native American woman who was leading us, and we were in a big, huge circle. And at the end, we were told that this had never happened because we looked like a strange lot of people. Monks and robes, and, you know, Phil Lane in his full Indian gear with a big, huge Indian headrest. People with yarmulkes and full dress, Sufi people, all just looking very strange but quite comfortable. And we decided that we were going to bless the land at this last site. And she had asked that everybody offer a blessing. And I'm like still thinking, why are we coming to Armageddon, to the place that represents? And as I was thinking that, Spirit revealed to me that the Battle of Armageddon, that we were actually in the midst of it right now. That there is a battle, if you will, for the unfoldment of life Either we are going to choose the light or we shall choose limitation. And I don't want to really say darkness because there was a sister, a woman who gave me a very powerful lesson on the power of the darkness also to bring about creativity. So let's say maybe good and evil, right? Whether we were going to choose the good or whether we were going to choose negativity. And that people had gathered from all around the world to bring light to this time and place. That we were making a choice, that we were standing in the gap for humanity, that we would choose a higher way and a higher purpose. That we would leave old consciousness behind. And that we would choose a new heaven and a new earth where all the people were valued and honored. Now, as at one point, this was before we got to this point, earlier we were on a kibbutz, and it was a women healing water ceremony. So it was basically women who were doing it, and men were in the outer. And this Native American called for the elders to come forth. And so I stepped forth, and I thought, I don't know. Usually I won't say I'm an elder, but okay. But I felt compelled to move in there. Like, wait a minute. But I moved in there. But at the closing ceremony, another woman called for the elders to come forth, and I just didn't feel to go. I said, I'm just going to give my blessings like everyone else. And so the circle started way around there, and the elders were sort of in the middle circle. And a butterfly decided to make its presence, and it was flying all around, and I saw it, and it was lovely, but I didn't think to concentrate on it because I was as people were giving their prayers, I was holding sacred space. And so I was very still and just inward. And apparently, I was told later that the butterfly was sort of looking where it would go, and people began watching it, and it landed on me. And I had no idea that it was there because I'm in my thing, right? I'm being still. And I was told that it stayed so long that the elder Native American woman summoned to her aid and told her to get me and bring me into the circle there because she has something that must be said. And so when he came to me, and I was like, I was in my thing, and he's like tapping me, come. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm doing my thing. And he says, no, she wants you to come in here. And I'm like, what? So I go. Now, I never saw the butterfly come, and I saw it flying around, but I closed my eyes. And later she said that it had stayed so long that she knew that there was something that needed to be brought forth. And so I'm not sure exactly what I said. I know that I said something about all of us being a witness for the time and holding the energy. And I remember saying afterwards, another woman came up and she said it was just so powerful because you were so still that butterfly rested. And so I began after that to think, well, what could that mean? And here it is. A butterfly symbolizes what? Okay, so just you know that. Thank you, you know that. It symbolizes what? Transformation. Change. And my soul has been looking, and we ask you every Sunday, are you ready to be transformed? Right? Because transformation, moving us from one place of consciousness into another, a higher consciousness, is what every soul is seeking. And so when I realized, when they told me how long the butterfly had stayed, I had no idea it was there. But what it said to me, that spirit said, when you hold your peace, when you can stand and when you can be still and know that I am God, and you hold that peace, your transformation takes place. And I was so thrilled with the message. And so I began to recognize that if I am to garner, if you are to garner all of the strength and the presence and power of God, you must hold your peace. You must be so still inside that the distractions of the world cannot disturb the calm peace of your soul. There's a saying, an affirmation that says, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And when you get rooted in that consciousness, there's nothing that can hold you back. And so I ask you this morning, what is it that perhaps is causing you to be distracted? What is it that is taking your peace from your soul and moving you into a place of confusion, doubt, lack, limitation, separation, fear? What is it that is old consciousness that needs to be rooted up so that you can be born into a new heaven, into a new expression, into a new life? Something is calling you. Something must be released so that you can give birth to the newness of who you are. We are all spiritual butterflies. Some of us are in the caterpillar stage, and we don't need to compare where we are. And some of us are in the cocoon, in that place of metamorphosis where we are changing. And some of us have given birth to our wings, and we're ready to fly, we're ready to soar. It doesn't matter where we are in the process, right? We are in the process. So the message this morning is, are you holding your peace? And because that's where your power is. That's where the presence of God is. Peace, be still and what? Know that I am God. And when you can hold that peace, you are holding the presence and consciousness of God to be fully expressed in you and through you and as you. So I thought, well, what are the things that get in my way that cause me to lose my peace? Because this is an internal process, right? Richard's song talked about working the work, doing the work. It's an internal process. And so I began to look, well, where are the times and when are the times that I lose my peace? And I thought, well, it could be when I have expectations of how I think other people should respond and behave and act towards me. And they don't. And I do what? I lose my peace. It happens when I find myself judging somebody. And I'm not holding my peace, but I'm judging and I'm assessing and categorizing. And never have I entered into a place where my judgment, when I'm judging you, that I find peace in myself. Right? So when I'm judgment, can I hold my peace? And I found myself, when my mind went there, so wait, no, step back, hold your peace. You don't need to judge. Just hold your peace. Perhaps our peace is destroyed when we want to have a situation turn out the way we think it should turn out, and it doesn't. And we're disturbed, right? Well, Lord, I thought you were going to do this for me, and this is what showed up, and now my spirit is disturbed. I'm going to the Holy Land, and you bring me a situation where I'm now not peaceful on a trip to Jerusalem. Now, little did I know it's because he wanted me to learn how to what? Hold my peace and not be disturbed and distracted by the things in the outer. There will always be something in the outer to distract you. He's fine. All right? He understands. He's getting what I'm saying. So there are times when, we have to recognize what is taking you from your peace, from your center, from the truth of what is happening. And it's all internal. It's all internal. I can think you're the problem. You're the cause. You're the one that's disturbing my peace. But guess what? As my teacher used to say, if you're disturbed, it's because you're what? You're disturbable. it comes back to us. And how easy we get offended. I looked at the people, they're one people, but they're so offended by one another. And we too are so offended. Someone doesn't look at us correctly. Maybe you're thinking I'm supposed to, you done something and I didn't get my thank you letters out to you. I still haven't gotten my thank you letters out for my Christmas gifts yet. And I bet you some of you are disturbed by that. You hear what I'm saying? And will then make a perception about what you think is taking place and why I didn't do it. And it means I don't value you and I'm not grateful and thankful. No, it means I had so much on my plate I haven't done it yet. So what can disturb the peace, the calm peace of my soul, is when I take perceptions and I think this must be the way it is because it's the way I see it. And yet I might not know what's happening in your life. I don't know why people do what they do. But won't we make up a story about it? Right? We're going to make up a story about it. But can I find and hold my peace? The littlest thing can take us off course. I was sitting at the closing circle before we went to the Mount of Medigo, and there's the woman who is I won't say where she, but anyway, a high-powered woman who I got a chance to sit down and talk to her and her husband. Had a lovely conversation at lunch one day, and it was really powerful, lovely. Anyway, a couple of days later at the end, we were sitting in a circle. We were at this place that the Arabs and the Jews were trying to come together. Young people are going to do it, friends. The young people are willing. It's the old people with old consciousness that can't get beyond what needs to happen. So we were at this center that's trying to bridge these young people, and we were having a closing ceremony. So this wonderful woman, I saw her sitting, and I thought, well, let me just sit down. And so I sat down and whatever, and I don't know what I said, something, whatever, to her, and we were waiting for the program to start, and it was all good. And then she got up, and she went and sat across the thing. Now, my mind was like, what? I went everywhere. I was, what? The mind will take you places, right? Because I was trying to find a reason what that was all about. Now, who knows what it was about? It could have been she wanted to see, but I went through all kinds of scenarios, and none of them were good, right? They were all leaving me questioning and feeling bad about myself, or what did I say, and what did I do? And then I had to say, wait, hold your peace. I have no idea unless I go and ask, well, why did you move? And I never had that opportunity. And it really doesn't what? It doesn't matter. Because I said, I can still be in my place of peace. I can still be in my place of love and compassion and understanding and light. And I need not make up a story about why anyone does anything. Because it is not about them. It is always about us, right? And so the question is, how do we hold our peace? How can we come to light and love? Someone sent me a story about these two women. And it was a woman who was hungry. And she goes and she sees another woman. And she goes and she asks her for some food. And the woman opens up her bag, and there's a big, beautiful, precious stone in there. And she's about to give her food, and the woman says, oh, no, give me that stone. Because she knows that that stone, she can buy enough things for a lifetime. She would be set. And the woman gives her the stone. The next day, the woman with the stone comes back to the other woman, and she says, here, take this stone. She says, because what I want what it is that allowed you to so freely and willingly give me the stone. Isn't that powerful? I want that. I want that which is of real value, compassion, love, light. Doesn't matter which side of the river I live on. It doesn't matter the quality of the land. I want the fruit of the Spirit that will enable me to share my resources with you. To make sure that every living being and creature on the planet is well fed and taken care of. There is enough for everyone. There is enough. I want that which enables me to hold my peace, to hold my love, to hold my light, and to give it fully and freely. I want that. I want to be able to hold my judgments. I want to be able to hold my misperceptions and my miscommunications. I want to hold my need to be right. I want to let go of all of those things. I want to hold those things in a sacred place that allows me to willingly and freely let go of it all. The book I'm reading, I see that they're doing the book club. It's The Untethered Soul. And that book, I've been practicing and working with some of the teachers because, you see, the soul is tethered to the ego. The soul is tethered to our way of doing it. The soul is tethered to my perspective, my belief, my truth, my position, my station, my goods, my resources, even my water, as if the water could be owned. Untether the soul. Let go of the boundaries that we have placed to separate us from one another. My land, this is God's land. This is God's water. These are God's animals. This is God's creation. Nobody owns it, but everybody is a part of it. And we have responsibility. So I want to hold my peace. Be so rooted and grounded. So here's some scriptures that I looked up this morning. Oh, I want to give you a quote from Mother Teresa. And she said, "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten we belong to each other." We belong to each other. This sense of separation is a false one. This sense that I can be supreme over you is a false one. This sense that this race is better than that race is a false thought. This religion is better than that religion is a false thought. We belong to each other. And I thought, God placed the birth of those three major religions in the same place. But the message was missed because they wanted to create my place. Jerusalem belongs to no one, but it belongs to everyone. And this is what it says in Proverbs 11. It says, "He that is void of wisdom despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace." I love that. A man, he that is void of wisdom, you think you know it all, but you despise your neighbor, but it is a man of understanding that will hold his peace. And then Proverbs 17 says, "Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise." Even a fool, zip it. People will think you're wise. He says, "And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding." Right? Someone said, "What? You don't want to open your mouth and prove that you were a fool." Be still and know that God is. Hold your peace. Before you want to respond quickly, hold your peace. And in that holding of the peace, whatever needs to be said will come forth easily. I was holding my peace so still and so powerful that the butterfly could leave and that the sister could say, "There's something that needs to be said." I didn't put myself in the middle of the circle of the elders. But God said, "No, you come." Right? I didn't arrange for that. I was doing my work, holding my peace, and God was doing what God needed to do in through your life and all of your affairs. Here's another one. This is one I love. Philippians 4:7. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and mind through Christ Jesus. I love that. And the peace of God, which passes through all understanding or lack of. Don't worry about it. The question I have, well, would it be okay if somebody doesn't understand me? Yes. Would it be okay if somebody doesn't like me? Yes. Would it be okay if someone does not hold me in high regard? Yes. Because there's a peace that passes all understanding, all misunderstanding, and it's the peace of God, right? And he says that keeps your mind and your heart. See, you lose your mind and you lose your peace because you're placing it other than upon God. It is God that keeps you. And the last one from Isaiah 26:3. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is what? Stayed on thee, because he trusts in thee. So the message for me that I shared with you this morning is about the power to hold your peace. And as we do so, together, as a people on this planet, as a spiritual community who's dedicated to light and to love, we shall hold the vibration and keep the high watch for others. Do not think that what we do when we gather together, that it is not a mighty force. It is powerful. We are causing ripples in the waters. We are stirring up the waters with our thoughts. And you know what happens when you stir up the waters, don't you? Miracles happen, right? Some of you Bible students know that when the water starts stirring, it's a time for miracles. And that's when the man said, let me get in the water. I can't get in the water. I need a miracle. We are stirring the waters. Is that good? Is that good? Are you all ready to go forth? And you're going to be doing what? Holding the peace. You're going to be doing what? Holding the peace. Your peace. And to hold it means you're giving it away, actually, right? But you're holding it inside so that it can be given away to all those who are needing peace